The Giants have fired Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese, the Daily News confirmed. Benching Eli Manning and making the franchise quarterback cry for the world to see was the last straw for McAdoo. Reese, despite 2 Super Bowl wins in his first season of 2007 and in 2011, has missed the playoffs 5 of the past 6 seasons primarily due to his mismanagement of the roster and draft. Only 10 of Reese's 43 draft picks from 2015 remain on the team. And his refusal this offseason to upgrade the offensive line was nothing short of malpractice. He was spared 2 years ago when Tom Coughlin was shown the door but couldn't survive a second plummeting of the team on his. Giants co-owners John Mara and Steve Tisch also canned McAdoo as head coach Monday morning, less than 2 seasons into a 4-year contract with the Giants, an unthinkable 210 coming off Sunday's 2,417 loss to the Raiders at the Black Hole in Oakland. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo will take over duties as head coach with assistant GM Kevin Abrams as GM, according to NFL Network. They made the move faced with back-to-back home games against 2 NFC East rivals in the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles, with the prospect that fans won't show up, and reports that some of Manning's teammates even will attend wearing number 10 jerseys in support of the QB against the coach and organization. Mara messed up by signing off on last week's ill-advised plan to transition away from Manning to get eyes on 2 other quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Davis Webb. But McAdoo blew it by going a step further and telling Manning he would be benched at halftime no matter what and only would continue starting due to his 210-game streak. Manning declined to tarnish his consecutive start streak, second all-time in NFL history to Brett Favre's 297. And that led to Manning's benching, last Tuesday's tearful Manning interview at his locker, and a week-long outcry from fans, former teammates of Manning's, and people around the NFL and the country about how poorly the Giants had treated their 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. And that prompted Mara last Wednesday to put McAdoo on a more urgent notice than he had previously, responding to a question if McAdoo were safe until the end of the season with "there's no guarantees in life." Mara also grew visibly frustrated when asked about McAdoo's job performance, demonstrating even more impatience than he and Tisch had in their November 13 statement after a 3,121 road blowout loss to the previously winless San Francisco 49ers, when they referred to an extremely disappointing season and an inexcusable and frustrating preceding 2 weeks, but assured they wouldn't make a decision on anything until the end of the year. It became impossible to wait, though, because McAdoo's ineptitude had compounded throughout the fall. It had reached another level in the week prior to that Niners loss, when anonymous players ripped both McAdoo and defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. One player told ESPN that McAdoo has lost this team, while another said guys are giving up on the season and nothing's being done. Lack of effort showed up particularly in the secondary in losses to the Rams and Niners coming out of the Week 8 bye, most notably from Eli Apple and Janoris Jenkins. Dominique Rodgers, Cromartie and Apple all were either officially or unofficially suspended for lashing out at McAdoo for double standards in his player rules and enforcement. In the face of those anonymous quotes, the Giants leaked to ESPN that the organization would not be changing its management or coaching staffs mid-season, seemingly coming from Mara, given his follow-up statement containing the same sentiment after the Niners loss. But clearly Mara forgot the Giants' unofficial 2017 season slogan, uttered after a Week 1 loss in Dallas by Manning. "It can always get worse," Manning said then after scoring 3 points in the season opener. McAdoo concludes with a 13-16.448 mark but lost 11 of his last 13 games, beginning with last January's 3,813 blowout wildcard playoff loss in Green Bay. The Giants have fired a coach mid-season for the first time since 1976, when Bill Arnsparger was let go 7 games into his 3rd season with a 728.200 record. Leroy Andrews in 1930 was the only other Giants coach released in season. Jim Fassel announced his own firing with 2 games left in 2003 but coached the last 2 games. Firing McAdoo, 40, though, was the furthest topic of conversation coming off his rookie 2016 season, when he succeeded 2-time Super Bowl winner Tom Coughlin by leading the Giants to an 115 record and snapping the franchise's 4-year playoff drought. McAdoo's 2016 Giants got their doors blown off the wild-card round in Green Bay by 25 points, capping a week of controversy with Odell Beckham Jr. at the chaos epicenter, thanks to his and the receiver's infamous boat trip to Miami 6 days before the blowout defeat and Beckham punching a hole in the wall at Lambeau Field after the loss. Super Bowl aspirations nevertheless followed the Giants into training camp, emboldened by the off-season signing of wideout Brandon Marshall and the strength of the NFL's second-leading scoring defense in 2016. And yet, Murphy's Law governed McAdoo's second and final season as Giants coach. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. And more. This was McAdoo's first career head coaching job at any level of football. And once the 2017 season started poorly, it spiraled quickly into an unmitigated disaster, snowballing on McAdoo quickly and fiercely. And he proved unable to manage or keep up. GM Jerry Reese still deserves the bulk of the blame for not addressing the Giants' greatest weakness on the offensive line in the offseason. Marshall also was a colossal disappointment, and starting in Week 1 the offense remained just as disappointing as it had been in 2016, scoring only 3 points against the Cowboys in the opener. Beckham's preseason left ankle sprain in Cleveland was a harbinger of disaster. And his eventual left ankle fracture in a Week 5 loss to the Chargers, which dropped the Giants to 0-5, sealed the direction of the season, as injuries piled up in startling numbers across the roster, decimating McAdoo's team when it needed badly to rebound. Getty Images AP But McAdoo didn't just lose his job because of losses. He lost his job because he lost players and a percentage of the team stopped playing for him, beginning when Beckham lifted his leg and pretended to pee like a dog in the Philadelphia end zone in Week 3. And the losses became not just consistent but non-competitive, primarily because some players on the defense stopped trying or caring. After Beckham's dog-peeing celebration in Week 3, McAdoo developed a new system of discipline that involved taking away playing time from offenders who broke the rules, but he didn't penalize Beckham or even condemn his disgusting celebration until Mara released a statement days later saying he was very unhappy with Beckham. But when members of the secondary acted out, McAdoo became the new sheriff in town and disciplined all 3 of his top 3 cornerbacks, including 1-week suspensions for Roger Scrum-Marty, Week 6 and Jenkins Week 9, respectively, and now 3 straight scratches for Eli Apple. And Apple's second scratch on Thanksgiving was an implicit suspension after someone inside the Giants building smeared Apple in a November 25 report for being immature and receiving criticism poorly. Incredibly, the hit job on Apple was delivered only 9 days after Apple's mom, Annie, had undergone brain surgery. He was accused of lashing out at criticism of his play on November 15, in a film session stressing accountability, the day before his mom's operation. This season, the Giants always have found a new low. The beginning of the end was the Week 5 home loss to the Chargers. Not only did Beckham, Marshall and Dwayne Harris all suffer season-ending injuries, and Sterling Shepard and Landon Collins sprained ankles, too, but the defensive backs lashed out. McAdoo had benched corner Apple for the game's first 3 series, reportedly for talking back to a coach in practice. Apple complained after the game about the Giants' culture that needed a fix and implied he was a scapegoat. Roger Scrum-Marty talked back to McAdoo during the game on the sideline, angry he had been removed from the game because he wanted to play through a foot injury. And Jenkins was seen bolting out of the locker room with Spagnuolo chasing after him. The next week, McAdoo informed Roger Scrum-Marty he would be benched for the following week's game in Denver. The veteran corner responded by cleaning out his locker and leaving the facility, incurring a 1-week suspension over the coach's double standards and discipline. McAdoo's credibility simultaneously took a major hit because he was caught trying to mislead the media about what had happened and never disclosed that Roger Scrum-Marty's actions had been in response to a Week 6 benching. ESPN later reported that Giants players were upset with McAdoo for being so strict with the secondary, for example, while always giving Beckham a free pass and not penalizing left tackle Eric Flowers for shoving a reporter in 2016. McAdoo responded to the hysteria by finally giving up offensive play-calling duties, which he should have done weeks prior, even before Beckham revealed in Week 4 that Tampa Bay Buccaneers corners were telling him how predictable the Giants' offense had been. The Giants won their first game in Denver without Roger Scrum Marty, with offensive coordinator Mike Sullivan committing to the run and Jenkins returning an interception for a 2 count. But the good feeling was fleeting. The Giants returned to MetLife Stadium and promptly got pushed around by the Seattle Seahawks, 247, and at game's end there were mostly Seahawks fans remaining in the empty stadium chanting "Hawks, Hawks." McAdoo gave his players 5 days off during the ensuing bye week and told them to get away from it. Reese spoke that Tuesday and simultaneously took the blame for the disastrous season and then took a shot at McAdoo's preparation of the team in the weeks leading up to games. The Giants returned from the bye week hoping for new energy, but Jenkins no-showed for the first practice back on Monday, October 30th, the day after his birthday, and Apple and running back Paul Perkins didn't get back in time, either. Apple and Perkins called ahead to alert McAdoo, though. Jenkins never checked in, explaining later, "I just didn't show up." McAdoo lied to the media and fans that day by claiming all 3 absent players were excused for personal reasons, but in reality he didn't even speak with Jenkins until the following Tuesday morning. And so he tried Tuesday to backpedal out of the lie, but it was no use. His credibility spiraled further. McAdoo suspended Jenkins for Week 9, though, and tried to maintain order. He made a statement in his weekly in-house interview that the 2017 Giants practice even better than they did in 2016, a clear response to Reese's accusation that the team doesn't prepare well enough. And then, the Rams arrived and ran the Giants out of their own building in a 5,117 annihilation that left prominent NFL analysts across the country accusing Giants players of quitting, specifically on the overmatched defense. McAdoo insisted his players had not quit on him and maintained in one of his many favorite cliches that he had talented men of integrity on his team. But then he had that thrown back in his face when players anonymously ripped him. After all that, Mara and Tish still were seemingly prepared to wait until New Year's Day to fire the coach. But then Manning got benched, and a Daily News video of an emotional Manning went viral, and anyone with 2 eyes grew more disgusted than ever with a Giants franchise that has lost its way. And so McAdoo was out, and Reese should be next, followed by any of the players who lacked the requisite character or effort when times got tough. And then it's time for Mara to accept the blame for this mess that ultimately lies at his own feet. He fired Coughlin and hired McAdoo but kept Reese in the GM seat. He signed off on bringing back kicker Josh Brown, knowing he had abused his wife. He gave the go-ahead to move on from Eli, giving way to this chaos. In the end, it's on Mara.